Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us to our today's Market Launch webinar. We are very excited to present the new THERA-Trainer Toro. Toro is the next level robotic-assisted cycling system from THERA-Trainer and designed for functional recovery across a wide spectrum of patients, and it's specifically made for clinical professionals. And you will get insights today and first look at Toro's next level design, the new software functionalities and the usability concept, insights into the new gamification, scenic video routes, and the goal-driven therapy based on patented assessments. And I'm pleased to welcome our speakers. This is first Dr. Jonathan Kopf. He's the Chief Executive Officer at THERA-Trainer. Hello, Jonathan. And secondly, Alexander Kams. He is Head of Sales at THERA-Trainer. And both guys will guide you now through the key features and the use cases of the new Toro. Let's dive in.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jacob. Before we dive into the details of what Toro is, I thought it's probably interesting for you to walk you through a bit of background, the history of why is Toro like it is. And the question we asked ourselves at the beginning of the development process is, how do you turn our vast experience of more than 35 years now in this segment into a new, really awesome product? Because, needless to say, it doesn't start anymore like a startup with like a crazy engineer in the basement that invents something. But we want to leverage everything that we know to make a new product. So how did we do this? So first step, we actually listen. So to understand the customer pains and gains best, I think talking to your customers is actually absolutely key. So sounds like a conventional wisdom. Everyone basically knows that. But how did we specifically do that to really leverage our big network of more than 100,000 installed devices to actually gain those insights? So first, we did a very systematic design to value study with a partner where we asked 100 or over 100 facilities for their input. Which features did they really like? Which improvement ideas do they have? To really get first-hand field experience of what they really value about the products. Second part was that we asked at exhibitions and congresses, did surveys to really understand what the participant liked about our products, liked about competitor products, generally what their feature requests were. Third point is that we did a survey, or we asked our experts from the therapist advisory board for input. What exactly would they want to see in a new product based on the latest research or the latest projects they were doing, to really make sure that the new product is really on the cutting edge of what is possible today. And last but not least, and I think that might probably come down to your input personally, that we included all the post-market surveillance data. So all the feature requests, all the pain points, all the wishes that you contributed or sent to us over the last decades even, to make sure that we also gained your input for a new product. So that's basically the process of how we try to understand best what the customers, so you, actually want from a new product. So what did you have to say? And needless to say, I cannot go into like every single detail because there are so many different inputs that we got over the years. But I took the liberty of just selecting a few of them to get a better understanding of what are main points that we heard again and again, what customers actually want. So one example is, if you know our product, but also competitor products, the cycles typically have this T-bar in front of the device due to stability reasons. And we heard numerous times that this makes the entry sometimes with some wheelchairs a bit difficult. So particularly motorized wheelchairs are a challenge there at times. Second thing that we heard is that, well, these active, passive, assistive cycles work very, very well for weaker patients. But what if you have a stronger, more active patient or a heavier patient that really needs to weighs more than 135 kilograms? What do we do with them? Third topic we heard a few times is the height adjustment is nice to really adjust the device to each person's level. But in the end, actually doing that as a therapist and lifting the upper part of the device up and down is not exactly a pleasure always. Disinfection, I think generally the focus on disinfection has increased a lot over the last few years. And for existing devices out there, sometimes more challenging than it probably needs to be. Next topic, and radius adjustment is just an example here, but they said radius adjustment, adjusting that to the specific needs of a patient is really great. But to be honest, in reality, most therapists feel like they don't actually have the time to actually do that. So yes, they like the feature, but actually looking back at each day, how many times did they actually use it? Not quite as often as they would have liked, because simply they don't have the time. Next topic that we heard is moving the cycle to another room is a bit of a pain. Now, generally, that's not a problem if you have the situation where you have a big gym with like a row of 10 THERA-Trainer Tigos, for example, next to each other, and the patients come to the gym to train. Fine. But what if you have an institution where you actually need to go to the bed to a patient and bring the device to them? Then moving the cycles, whether it's our cycle or competitor cycles, is typically a bit of a pain to actually do on a day-to-day basis. Particularly with arm training, we often heard the wish for more resistance or more power input for more active patients. And then also obviously more stability that you need if you really train very actively with upper body exerciser. And what we heard a lot is people would love to have new games, not just for the game's sake, but because they said, well, for a therapist, their job is a lot easier if you have patients who are really, really motivated. And new games that are really targeted on what you're supposed to do facilitate that a lot. Last but not least, I picked one quote, which actually seems to not directly reflect to the product. So after product training, one of our consultants actually going to a clinic, they said, well, it's a great training, but we have the challenge that half a year from now, we will have new colleagues, some of the colleagues will have left. So how do we actually ensure that they are constantly trained to the best of their capabilities? And even though that does not seem to be directly related to the product, these are also inputs we tried to take into consideration when we designed our new product. So a lot of input into what could you start with to make an improved product. Now, at this position, we took one step back and asked ourselves, so why is it that the products out there, the cycles out there, actually don't fulfill these wishes in many cases, as well as the customers, again, you and therapists actually would love to. So why not? When we looked at it in more detail, we realized that you basically have two very different customers out there. So for a typical cycle, you do have the professionals that use it in institutions on the one side, but on the other side, you also have the home customers. So imagine the grandma that actually buys a cycle, or depending on country, get it reimbursed by the reimbursement system for their home use. So we asked ourselves, do these two customer groups actually have the same requirements? So what about home use? For home use, I think cost is one of the most important things. It needs to be as low as possible. But further than that, you actually just need a one-time setup. So for example, the radius adjustment, whether it's difficult or not, doesn't really matter that much because you're doing it just one single time. And then the grandma or the grandpa actually uses the cycle in that configuration all the time because it's the only user. Also frequency of use. So maybe 2-3 times a week. If you're having an extremely motivated patient, maybe 4 or 5 times a week, but more than 5 sessions is at least not the norm for most of these customers. So we asked ourselves, are these requirements, are these the same for the professional customer? And I'm sure you know what I'm alluding to, but they are completely different if you look at it. Yes, it's still a cycle, but on the professional side, it's very intensive use, multiple sessions a day. It's very different patients. So between sessions, you need to change for different body sizes. You have different wheelchairs. You have different special needs. So in that regard, very, very different from the home use. Time for setup is extremely short, so no to at least very, very little time. And the same regarding learning and training. You simply don't have the time for a 2-hour training session for every therapist because they don't have the time in the day-to-day. Disinfection is key. You have very active users, and you could extend the list a lot. But our main takeaway from that comparison was, while in the past, you simply had one cycle for both customer groups trying to make the best out of or combine both requirements. But in the end, the requirements are very, very different. And that, by essence, means that all the existing cycles that we typically see in clinics are actually compromises trying to make it okay for both customer groups, but maybe not perfect for everyone. So at this point, we made the very conscious decision, say, let's now not make a hybrid, not a compromise, but we want a device that is really 100% perfect for professional use. So we took away all the home use requirements, forget about those. We now focused 100% on our professional customers. What do they really want and need? At this point, we realized that we cannot take just Tego and iteratively improve aspects of it. So this has to be not an evolution, but a revolution. So in essence, what we did, we really started from a completely empty sheet of paper, said, forget about the past. We just take the requirements and now think about, like, all restrictions aside, what can we come up with that best fulfills these requirements? So various radically new concepts, like really a ton of different options that we came up with. And then we started to narrow it down to say, okay, like for one or the other reason, this concept is maybe not perfectly fulfilling the requirements, narrowed it down to 2 final concepts. With the 2 final concepts that were really head-to-head, we then used our board of experts and a lot of fact-based checking to really benchmark it, the 2 concepts, to understand which is really the best design. This is now just an example in terms of really looking into each dimension, like how well does this concept actually fulfill these requirements. And then last but not least, that's basically the background story of how we identified really the perfect design from our perspective for Toro for professional customers. And here we are. So after years of development and millions spent, here's our new THERA-Trainer Toro. Alex, maybe you can walk us through a few of the features, but my suggestion would be, before we actually dive into further details, maybe I can give you guys a short introduction in the form of a video, just to introduce the general concept to you. So 1 second.
The THERA-Trainer Toro is the revolutionary motor-assisted exercise device of the future, designed solely for professional use with no compromising. Discover the new era beyond traditional cycling with next-generation design, next-generation performance, and next-generation features. Developed from scratch, Toro's patented shape allows easy access, even with a wheelchair, with no need for patient transfer. The robust base provides extreme stability, yet can be easily moved with just one finger thanks to 4 lockable casters. The Toro takes ease of use to a new level. Do almost everything with just one click. One click to use the anti-tip, one click to change radius, one click to swap accessories. Extremely quick to set up in less than a minute. The groundbreaking, super easy to use electric height adjustment allows changing from leg to upper body training with just one click, making it suitable for children and adults with a height of 1.1 to 2 meters. The proprietary drive technology provides maximum performance, from passive gentle movement at 1 RPM to intensive active training with up to 250 watts, double that of most competitors. This enables a smooth transition for all patients, from weak to strong. Safety is already built in. The hidden crank eliminates any danger and allows for state-of-the-art hygiene and disinfection. Visual signals allow supervision in group settings, even from a distance. But it's not just the hardware that makes the THERA-Trainer Toro revolutionary. The new software features a next-level therapy experience for both patients and therapists. The large display unit comes with integrated therapeutical pathways, patented Borg scale-based clinical assessments, and meaningful goal-oriented documentation. The setup follows established therapy goals for targeted interventions, like endurance or even isokinetic, concentric, and eccentric strength exercises. Next-level gamification and integrated scenic video routes make therapy sessions fun for patients by increasing motivation and possibly improving outcomes. But Toro will not stop there. Your exercise device will be continually updated with safety features, as well as the latest games and video routes over the air. Buy today, get the future. Are you ready to take your work to the next level? Discover Toro, the new era of cycling, designed solely for professionals. Safe, easy, effective, and
So thank you, Jonathan, for this nice introduction of our new Toro, and welcome also from my side. I would like to dive a little bit deeper into the features of the device. So I think if we call it next level cycling, it really is next level, not only next level design or next level gamification, but also the whole usability is next level. So as already shown in the video, the THERA-Trainer Toro appears in a completely new movement cycle layout, which stands out very much from the previous concept of movement trainers. The device was developed with the goal that it should exclusively serve to the conditions of the professional environment, what Jonathan also showed in his introduction. So what we see here is that the device combines state-of-the-art technology, advanced software, and an in-house developed motor with a significant power of 250 watts. Regarding the motor, I think Jonathan can come up here with some extra details, but later on. And in addition to the fact that we have integrated large and disinfectable surfaces and a closed crank unit with various safety functions, the Toro, we have made sure that all the accessories can be stored at the device. So this is a big advantage. If you see like big facilities, the possibility or the chance that accessories get lost is way smaller than it was before. So this means that the user does not lose any time. Parts of the Toro will not get lost, and also the setup can be adjusted individually, very easy to the patient's needs. The software reflects various therapeutic contents. I will go into or dive into deeper into this topic later on. And we have integrated 50 scenic cycle routes. So quite a lot to cycle during a rehab time. So as I mentioned earlier, the user friendliness of the Toro was extremely important for us. And, you know, this one click thing is something where we really stressed our engineers. So I think this is also something Jonathan can talk about from the developing time.
Yeah, I think our engineers at the end of the development process, well, hate is a strong word, but kind of hated me for it, because whenever they came up with a process to say, oh, we can do this like just 3 clicks and then it's done, I always said, no, don't come with me. Come back to me with a solution that takes 3 clicks. Find a way to make it in just 1 click. And I think that's why you find this whole concept of 1 click really wherever possible. We implemented that, but not just for the sake of it, but because we think that therapists really should waste as little time as possible for the setup.
Yeah, so 1 click not refers to software, but also to hardware, meaning 1 click to mount accessories, adjust the height, and thus turn the arm trainer into a leg trainer, or vice versa, of course, or adjust the crank height to the corresponding seat height of the patient. You know, we can adjust really for higher wheelchairs also. And so likewise, it only takes 1 click to set the training or start a therapy session. You see that the Toro is quite, as it is a professional device, we tried to really make it really, yeah, I would not say it's a lightweight. It weighs 64 kilograms, but due to the 4 wheels and 2 of them are swiveling, so you can swivel them, the changing of the position, taking it from A to B, is very, very easy. Or also if you want to adjust the patient's seat position to the Toro, it is quite easy to do it with 4 wheels. And this is a big, big advantage to other devices which only have maybe 2 wheels. And the integrated anti-tip protection now is really integrated into the device. So it comes also with the base unit. Every base unit of the Toro has an integrated tip protection. Next level gamification and video routes are included. I said this some minutes before. So this means that the software contains, following the ideas of extra gaming, specific exercise content, which can be adapted to the needs of the patient in terms of what does he want to do, what makes sense to do with him, the complexity of gamification, the terms of the therapy objectives. So basically, we distinguish between symmetry training, strength training, endurance training, and rhythmization training. In addition, it is possible, as I said before, to choose one of 50 scenic cycle routes. These cycle routes are filmed from a first-person view, so from the driver's view. And this is, for example, nice for patients who maybe here and there detect some vacation places, which increases the motivation to do a little bit cycling. So I think this is a very nice tool which is integrated into the Toro to boost patients' motivation also. If you want to set up the right training load, you have the opportunity to work with the Org CR10 scale. So this scale is really scientifically proven, and it is used already since a long period of time in the training of patients. And so to do this, the software can guide you through a menu navigation, and within a few seconds, you can determine the right level of stress or strength to the patient. So the Borg scale has, as I said, scientifically evaluated and now is implemented in our toro. So in our case, the patient here is asked to perform a specific cadence over 60 seconds at a resistance with which he feels comfortable. And then you have got the baseline. And I mean, we have implemented it. You can use it, but it is just an option. I think here also during the development, it was for us quite important to speak the language of the therapists.
I think, Alex, if I may add to that, you're absolutely right. So speaking the language of a therapist, what does that mean in this case? We really sat together with therapists and asked, like, if you have a really, really good, a really well-trained therapist that knows the device in and out, what would that black belt therapist actually do to find the perfect setting? And we then used that information from this super therapist to actually design this assessment, which we also patented then. And I think this kind of logic you will find throughout the device, really trying to speak the language of the therapist. And Alex, another point that you mentioned is important here as well. So none of this is a must. So we both have the situation in mind where you have, let's say, a therapy assistant who is only partially trained, doesn't know the device in and out. Then you can use this assessment to still find very, very good settings despite the lack of training. And on the other hand, if you have a therapist that is just eager to get going because it doesn't have any, he or she doesn't have any time, you simply press play and the device starts without having to go through any of these assessments.
All right. So another important point we think is documentation. Of course, patients and also therapists want to see the results after the workout. So to this end, we have implemented a training summary in the Toro that makes the training documentation in a goal-oriented manner. So if you want to see how the patient felt about the training, how symmetrical he put force into the pedals, or whether there were ups and downs. So like here, you can see it, ups and downs in performance during the training. You just can click on a button and then you can get the documentation out of this training session. And another, let's say, important aspect is that the resistance of the Toro can be displayed in kilograms, and thus the load limits to this extent as well. So if you imagine training with orthopedic patients, you can now see if they are putting the right load in to not overstress them. So I think also here, let's say the language of the therapists was something which also is displayed in this. Maybe it's a small feature, but it's quite an important feature that we can display it in a kilograms and not like in Newton meters. So talking about the professional use, it's also always important to talk about having the possibility to put a wide range of patients to the device. And I already mentioned the new motors at the beginning, and a lot of thought was put in this. And I think here also from the development point of view, Jonathan can add some special information for you.
I still remember when Otto, our CTO, came to me and said, Jonathan, I'm sorry to say this, but we really have to develop our own electric drive. And I said, like, are you crazy? Because like everyone is buying these like from big manufacturers, from bigger Chinese corporations or anything. He said like, no way we're doing this. But in the end, we ended up doing it. But why? Because we realized if you really want to have a powerful motor, that can both be extremely smooth and quiet at 1 RPM. So that's extremely slow, but also allow for very active patients at 250 watts to train. There's simply not a drive out there that would enable that. And so in the end, I went with Auto, and we actually produce now electric drives here in Hochdorf as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, the result of this is that we now have a motor which can have like 1 to 90 revolutions per minute in the passive mode. And in the peak active mode, it can, you can get up to 250 watts peak with 120 revolutions per minute. So I think here we really see that there is a wide range of application we can do with the Toro, and also we can have patients on the device up to 180 kilograms. Yeah, so regarding also the height of the patients, which I get to now, you can see that we can put on like smaller, let's say children or smaller adults up to big adults up to 200 centimeters. So starting from 110 centimeters up to 200 centimeters, we can put the patients here, and the device, so the crank, is electrically and effortlessly height adjustable. We have a barrier-free access, so this means that we can use it with nearly every wheelchair, and every wheelchair user is enabled to go to or train with the Toro. Jonathan talked about this in the beginning. So there is no T-bar representing. So there is no limit to go to the Toro in terms of having a T-bar in front of the device. So we do not have the usual obstacles, even with very wide or very small or very high wheelchairs. With regards to the range of patients who benefit from the Toro, I would like to come back to the possibility of the exercise specification. So in combination with a simple tool-free radius adjustment, which is possible in 3 steps, so both for arms and legs. So maybe you can see it here like a little bit. You can put it very easily without any tools. You can put it in 3 different places. So it's in a 3-step selection of the crank. So, and we can put it here for a bilateral or unilateral training. Completely new possibilities arise for patient groups, such as, for example, amputees or people with neurologic disorders who want to do like forced use training. So as soon as a crank transducer is removed, the Toro detects that the device is being used only unilaterally, and the engine controller electronically compensates for the missing flywheel. So, and this is very unique. So if you really work with patients like with amputees, it is a very unique way to do training also with these patients. And before you always had a little bit like problem of the missing flywheel. Strength training can be selected concentric or eccentric on the Toro. Accordingly, patients are then required to use force with the direction of rotation of the crank, which would then be concentric, or against the direction of the rotation, which then is eccentric. So when do we use, for example, eccentric strength training? So imagine you have a neurologic patient and you want to relearn the going down the stairs. So when you do this, you need eccentric power. And with the Toro in this mode of the strength training, you can very nicely train this eccentric strength, which is used in many situations of daily living. So summing up everything, I hope I could bring you all the nice features of the Toro a little bit closer. And of course, I hope we could arouse some curiosity so that you would like to see the device in real life. So as I said, summing up, I think we can say it's really tailor-made for professional use in every imaginable thing, like software and hardware. It's a one-click system everywhere for software and for hardware to provide easy operation. The transport is really effortless. It has the 64 kilograms. It is very robust, but we can really easily transport it from A to B. It has a compact drive unit for safety and disinfection. So you've got this shielded crank here, where it's, as I said already, it's very safe. There's a visual signaling to the monitor training. So if something is going wrong or the device doesn't work properly or something happened, then you see already very soon the LED lights. It has a powerful motor. Jonathan explained it. It is self-developed from THERA-Trainer. We have different modes in strength training, like concentric, eccentric training, and we can provide many therapy goals. We have built-in scientific scenic video routes, and let's say with the gamification modes we have to really address to different types of patient groups. We can say in terms of the training with the movement trainer, it's really next level gamification. So we can use this Borg scale, which is integrated to set up the assessment and to set really the right baseline for training. We have meaningful and goal-oriented documentation, electric height adjustment. As I said, you can use it from 110 centimeters to 2 meters, and also with different types of wheelchairs. Very unique is the possibility that the crank detects if there is one side or both sides used, so we can really do a unilateral or bilateral exercise training. And we have a barrier-free access because there is no T-bar here. So it's very easy to go there with any chair or wheelchair and use the Toro. So of course we provide also nice 3D models on our website. So if you want to visit our website, thera-trainer.com, you also can have a 3D model and turn it around and get a little bit more insights to the Toro. So now let's hear about the first impressions from the field.
Yeah, with Toro, I think we're in the unique situation that since the regulatory process in the US is quicker, we were able to launch the product a little bit quietly already mid last year in the US. So from the US, we have already first-hand experience with the product. And maybe it's worth, beyond just what we think, actually hear a few customers of what they think about the product. So if I had to summarize a few insights of the last half year in the US, I think number one is that all the aspects that Alex was just presenting, like this is a huge list of a ton of tiny improvements. And what we realized is that it's not just the one feature that is important to everyone, but in reality, you find like one customer likes feature X, the other one likes that feature. So there's almost for everyone, there's at least one or multiple reasons why they love Toro, but it's not the same for everyone. The second thing is that the idea to include video routes. From a therapist's perspective, it's maybe not the most challenging training, right? You get the feedback how fast you're going, but it's not like eccentric strength training, which from a therapeutical point of view, to me, seems more interesting. But customers really, really love the video routes. And I think it really comes down to the fact that the patients really enjoy the whole experience of therapy a lot more and are actually motivated to train by themselves because it's so easy and entertaining to do so with the video routes. For me personally, the fact that it has 4 wheels, it was basically, yes, because it's quite sturdy and heavy. We need that to move it around. But I didn't quite realize how important that is for some customers. So yes, you have these customers that have a big gym. Then for these, it doesn't really matter too much whether you have 4 meals or not. But others were saying, well, just for the reason alone that it has 4 wheels and you can really maneuver it with like one finger, that turns the whole application to something completely different, because now we can actually bring the device to people's patient rooms and we can completely rethink how we actually do therapy in our institution. So to me, quite surprising. Maybe 1 or 2 more observations. So I think for kids, it's also the entertainment aspect is nice, and also that we allow for a much bigger range of people, sizes, if you will. So I think actually here in one picture in the middle, you can see a little kid playing on Toro. That was actually the very first Toro we sold in the US, was actually to a children's hospital. So I think also from that perspective, it opens up a whole new field that maybe was not quite as accessible with our products before. In essence, the feedback from the US, from our customers, was really that, that we listened well to what they need. So I think, meanwhile, we're at a position where 8 out of 10 customers decide to buy a Toro instead of a Tigo. So in a very, very short time, basically all professional or most professional customers say, I'd rather spend an extra buck, but the device is so clearly better than anything we've had before. So please give it to us. And I think the last insight for me is, while I really appreciate that you guys are here to listen to the webinar, but Toro is something you have to experience. So you cannot read a flyer and expect to really understand the device or be excited about it. Or you cannot watch this webinar and be blown away. So I hope you guys are. But in the end, I really, really encourage you, get your hands on a device. Reach out to us or our partners for a demonstration to really get first-hand experience. Only then you will really learn to appreciate which of the many features that Alex was talking about really work for you. So I'm excited to hear from you guys. I did see that we have a few questions coming in. So maybe, Jacob, we can switch to the Q&A and answer a few of the questions that you guys have.
Yes, there are questions, of course. Thank you very much, guys, for this great introduction and the overview about the functionality of the new THERA-Trainer Toro. I directly start with one question, and it's from Mitya. And he or she, I'm not sure, is asking, is it possible to check the weight the patient put on the pedals during exercise, or is it only seen in final report?
Alex, do you know by heart?
So it is like you do not see the weight which is put on the pedal, but the power which is used to press the pedal or push the pedal, this is the kilogram that you adjust.
And in general, so at the very beginning, you can set the weight limit. So the primary reason we understood is that if you have a patient that has a maximum tolerance of maybe 20 kilograms, then you can actually set like how much resistance at the maximum does your device give. So you can be sure that this person is not overloaded or doesn't carry more load than they have. That being said, I mean, everything is electronically connected, right? So if you see an application where you feel like this would be very important, I'm quite sure we could include this feature in the future. Also considering that the entire software concept of Toro is built around actually continuous development of the software. So in future versions, you will also get over-the-air updates. So it would be quite easy to add a feature like this if needed.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, and there is another question more or less in the same direction. It's about the symmetry training. Is it also possible to use symmetry training for the upper extremities or only for the lower extremities?
So like in the Tigo, you mean? Okay. So no, I mean with the Toro, we also provide symmetry training for the upper extremities. And moreover, I mean, we really put a lot of thoughts in what we also can offer. So besides this application, we can offer like the strength training programs to work concentrically, eccentrically, as well as the motor controller allows unilateral training. So there is, yes, symmetry training, but even more. I hope that puts it.
Okay. And then there is another very basic but important safety question from Konstantinos. Hi, I want to ask about anti-spasm protection. Is it available on Toro? I think yes.
Yes, absolutely. So we have that included, and in Toro you can, in the expert settings, you can even configure it in detail depending on your patient population. So whether it's supposed to be like super sensitive or just react to very strong spasms, and also detail whether you want to continue automatically afterwards in a forward direction, in a backward direction, or continuing in whatever direction it was. So it gives you a lot of options to make it suitable to your patient population.
Okay. And then we have a question regarding the software. And you both guys showed us and talked about the video routes. 50 video routes are included. New games are directly seamlessly integrated in the control panel. And one question is here: do I need to pay a separate license fee for the software, including the video routes and games?
Okay. So it's a bit of two questions. So first of all, in terms of license fees, we don't have anything where you have to pay a yearly fee with Toro itself. The video route package is an option because we feel like if we look at our professional customer groups, there are some that just want very, very targeted training and maybe would not need it. But as I mentioned, we were also surprised that basically almost every customer so far wanted it anyways, right? So it is formally as a separate option. That being said, now during the launch phase, we include it for free because we really want to get your feedback of how you want it. So for free right now. The 50 video routes, by the way, in terms of the number, it's not just by accident, but we really looked into like a typical rehab hospital, for example. How can we ensure that a typical patient has enough video routes to do training over the entire stay without repeating one route once? And so I think 50 video routes are really a perfect number there without getting into repetition.
And then there's one additional question from Vaughn. If there are more routes planned for the future, and if it's possible to integrate own video routes, maybe.
It's a very good question. I mean, for the video routes, maybe where did this idea come up? We partner with a lot of companies, or a few select companies that offer video routes, and that's basically their offer to the market. Typically, like, you need an external laptop, they offer more than 1,000 routes, and it's really great for the customers, but it always have this hurdle of having extra equipment. So I think what we're trying here is to bring the same experience on the cycle itself, fully integrated. You don't need any extra hardware. You simply select it like any other feedback to make it as easy as possible. So that's where we started. And I think now, in the second step, it depends a little bit on your feedback of what you would really want continuing from that. So if you would really want to upload your routes, because I really understand, particularly for dementia patients, it can be quite nice to have local routes as well. If that's an important feature to you, I think it would be quite possible to add that. But I really encourage you to simply reach out to us and say, that's a really important feature. And then we will simply include it in one of our next releases, or maybe extra software packages. We're also thinking, for example, for children's routes, right? Going through entertainment parks or something like that. So there are a lot of options where we can take it from here. So please give us your feedback of what you would really want, starting from the 50 routes that we have today.
Cool, thank you, Jonathan. And yeah, I think we're just in time. So one more question is, I think I can combine two questions here. One is, are there isokinetic, isotonic, constant power modes? And another question also from Juan in the same direction is, I would appreciate more discussion about the eccentric training. How does Toro behave differently to facilitate this compared to normal concentric training? So maybe, guys, you can explain a bit more in detail about the different training modes, concentric, eccentric training.
So yes, the Toro provides isokinetic training. So, for example, when we do the strength training, we use the isokinetic training to also, let the patient handle in a secure environment, so that he doesn't do things too fast and hurts himself, but really do the strength, the affordable strength, very in the right direction. Let's say it like this. So this works with an isokinetic mode, and the same idea is with the eccentric mode. It's also like eccentric, but also isokinetic. So you need to push against the pedal and use a certain force. And if you do so, then you've got a result in the software, like a rocket goes up, or a dove flies higher or lower. So this is how these kinds of strength training are, let's say, connected, or you can describe it like this. So, but again, I mean, Jonathan said it before. You really need to see and feel it. So we can discuss a lot about the isokinetic and concentric and eccentric training, but I think it makes purely sense to really check it physically.
Yeah, this is a good point to visit our website and book a free demo. Yeah, I think this is cool, and it's definitely what you say, Alex. You have to experience it, and then you can feel the difference. Yeah. There is one more question, if it's okay for you. Is it possible to perform cross-training or simultaneous training of arms and legs? Yeah, a question that is often come up when we talk about cycling training.
I mean, yes, it is a good question, and thank you for that question. The Toro allows, so from the principle of the Toro, it's of maximizing therapeutic success by focusing really the attention on an affected site. we really focus with the Toro principle on in this direction. So it's not like, okay, let's do everything at one time. Then we would more be like with maybe cardiac patients or so on. But our main focus group with the Toro is like neurologic patients, geriatric patients, orthopedic patients, and all those patients have more or less really a very detected problem on a special limb, or maybe also on two limbs. But it from our point of view, and also what we discussed with our scientific board and our therapeutic board, it really makes sense to focus on that side. And only with this, so with all this motor and motor controller things, we have the possibility and at the same time the advantage that we can offer things like unilateral training, for example. So you could not provide this really specific training if you would like provide everything in one device. That would not work out. So I think a major advantage of the Toro system is that on the one hand, you have really high sensitive training, but also a powerful motor that makes things possible, like doing up to 250 watts. I hope this somehow touches the point, but that was our idea when developing Toro.
Yeah, makes sense. And also from a research perspective, there is not strong evidence that it makes sense to train all extremities at the same time. There might be a backlink to locomotion training and CPG pattern, but it's not validated so good. And yeah, I think when it's about when the therapy goal is to stimulate locomotion patterns, then it's better to walk. Try walking with Lyra or treadmill or whatever, and not with the cycling trainer. Yeah, I think so. We come to the end during this hour webinar. One last question, maybe the most challenging to you guys: is the Toro a successor to the Tigo that we already have in portfolio?
Yeah, it's a good question. And we obviously get that a lot, particularly from people and customers who know our portfolio very well. The short answer is it's not. So we will continue to produce Tigo. And if you see our customers, right, we do have those home customers who are perfectly, where the Tigo fits really perfectly. And so for these, we also need a product, and they can continue to order Tigo at all times. So really, it's not a successor, it's more extending our range. But also further than just being for professionals, I think the market feedback that we get is that in most cases, it's not even seen as purely a cycle and doing the same, just better what Tigo does. No, it's actually something completely different. If you see how much wider your portfolio is of what you can do with it, unilateral training, strength training, it's more like a multi-function, full body exerciser than a traditional cycle for heavily affected patients. And so from that perspective, I feel like it's actually a completely new product. And a lot of people don't even compare it to any of the cycles in the market anymore, but see it as something completely different. Which, by the way, to our simultaneous discussion earlier, also includes products like New Steps. So I have conversations with people who say, well, obviously the movement is different, but in the end, I actually would rather buy one Toro instead of, let's say, a Tigo or a Motomate and a New Step, because what I did with a New Step before, I can do in the very active modes in Toro much better. So for me, very interesting perspective, but it just goes to prove that we're talking about a completely new animal here.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, so there are several more questions, and at this point, I must say we cannot answer all the questions, but please feel free to contact us via email, info@thera-trainer.com. Go to the website, use the contact form, pick up the phone and give us a call. whatever you prefer. We are here to answer all your questions also after the webinar. And thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Alex, for the great overview and the introduction in the new THERA-Trainer Toro. Thank you all and have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.